Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Conversations or Convos for short with Caregivers. I'm Taraline Campbell, and it is so good to be here again this month with our broadcast, our live broadcast. I'm known as the caregiver to caregivers. And as we begin, I want to say I am excited. I'm always excited about these segments, but I'm excited again tonight. And so I invite you, if you are viewing us on Facebook Live, please like and share on your own social media page. That will be greatly appreciated. As we begin, I'm ready to get right into it, into this wonderful conversation that I know we're going to have. And so as we do that, I want to introduce to you tonight's guest, Minister Vanessa Antrum. Let me read a little bit about this phenomenal woman. Minister Vanessa K. Antrum has been acknowledged as a light that shines to display God's goodness and his mercy. And she really is a light. Wait until you talk to her, until we talk to her and you hear from her. Steve Harvey said when he met her, yeah, she met Steve Harvey, y'all. Your high beam, you got your high beams on. That's what Steve Harvey said about Vanessa. She is blessed to have survived both breast and kidney cancer and believes that it is a testament to God's miraculous healing. Glory to God right there. Two types of cancer, and she has been healed. Thank you, Jesus. An awesome trainer and motivational speaker, Vanessa loves encouraging others, including her 4 adult children and 4 granddaughters. She has become a champion of self care after caring for and advocating for her elderly parents, who both passed away recently, while seeing the need to take time to care for herself by giving herself her oxygen first. Vanessa has been interviewed on several TV shows, so I'm really glad to have Vanessa here. Thank you. To discuss her victories and share her voice of victory. She enjoys being married to her soulmate, Thomas Antrum, for 40, they celebrated 40 years of marriage this year. So I'm going to bring to the virtual stage now Minister Vanessa K. Antrum. Come on in, sister.
Hey, Taraline.
Hey, hey.
How are you?
I'm great. I am so glad that you joined. Tonight's theme is really about, as I wrote on Facebook when I shared the initial announcement, like caregiving times two. Like, just as I was typing that, Vanessa, I got tired just typing, like, because I know how this journey was for me, caring for one at a time. And I've done it a couple of different times and spaces, but for one person. But to do it for 2 people at a time, at the same time, like only God could have helped.
Only God. Only God.
Sister, like, let's start right there. How did your caregiving journey begin?
Well, my caregiving journey began several years ago, almost 8 years ago, when I took my parents shopping one day, and my mom whispered to my dad, "You know we can't afford that." And he put a Pepsi in the basket. And I was like, "Ma, y'all can't afford a Pepsi?" And so when I started getting involved with their finances, I realized that because my dad wasn't driving his cab anymore and he was able to make a lot of extra money with his cab, that they were really struggling with making ends meet. So my husband and I made the decision that as long as we lived, they would not have to pay a mortgage. And so we took on the mortgage and paid that for several years until they passed away. And that's when it started. So as I began to get into her finances and I saw how different companies take advantage of seniors, even religious like tele-evangelists, it was so many checks that were being written to these TV ministers. And I'm like, Ma, you can't do that. And I mean, they were just promising her the world,
Wow.
and she was just sending it. So a lot of times we see our parents as doing okay and think that there's nothing wrong, but they do need that support because caregiving is not just for taking care of them for medical purposes. I realized that they needed somebody to help them more intensely with not only their finances but getting them places. Um, we used to have to come and pick them up for church, and
Mm,
I get there and it was like, nope, we can't quite wear this. So it might be, helping them get redressed and everything. So it started back then, but my mom had several medical issues, and the dementia started. And then my dad fell a couple of times and he broke his hip.
okay.
And so when he broke his hip, I think it was 93, 91 or something like that. And they didn't want to do surgery really because of his age, but they decided to go ahead and do it. And he went to a nursing home for rehab. And a month to the day, he fell out of the bed at the nursing facility. And so he had to have another surgery on that same hip. And they told me he's going to have to go back into the nursing home. And I was like, no, we'll do this. So that's how it started. I was like, just get me a hospital bed. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I said, bring him home. And it wasn't 2 weeks later, Taraline, that everything shut down. And I can't imagine if he would have been in that nursing home and they couldn't have been together. So that was the best thing, the best decision that I made along with my husband and my daughters. And I want to say when I'm talking tonight, it ain't just me. It was my daughters and my husband who helped me through this journey.
Mm,
So we had the hospital bed right next to mama's bed, and I moved in with them. My two of my daughters moved in with us, and so we became their caregivers because no one could come in or out. I was determined my parents weren't going to get COVID. And I tell you, I ain't letting nobody come in there. The nurses, y'all can tell me what I need to do. Let's do some videos. But nobody came in the house for almost 2 years because I wanted to make sure that they stayed safe. Because I knew that there were a lot of seniors dying from
right.
COVID. And I was afraid. And that's when I got really, really into Psalm 91. But I was really afraid because it looked like all the seniors in the world were passing away. If you watch CNN and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I got started.
Wow, Vanessa, like, and I was fortunate to know your parents because they worshipped at our church, and your mother, I affectionately, of like others at Calvary, called Mother Holly. We were
Yeah.
in Calvary Bible Institute classes together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, 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 and we, the class would look out for her and just love doing
Oh.
her on. I think it was the Monday night, one of the Monday night Bible classes, but she was so dear. And one of the things that, as you were talking, that I thought about, as you talked about it being a family affair, is the impact of when your life shifts and you become a caregiver,
Yeah.
how it impacts your family, others in your family. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of outside help except for my husband and my daughters. And I have to tell you, hands down, I had the best support system. It was like a good bra. It held me together and held me up. Yeah,
That's why you've been married 40 years, Vanessa.
right, right, right. So I tell you, we had a schedule. Even before COVID, we had a schedule. So after work, I might go over on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Then one of the girls would go on Tuesday, another would go on
Hmm.
Thursday and Saturday. We kept the schedule. We had it on Google calendar. They taught me how to use Google Calendar so you could fit stuff in and everything.
Okay.
And so we just planned out everything, who was going to be there. And then when COVID hit, we actually moved in. I left my husband and Colleen at home because they had to be essential. So they were going into work every day.
Hmm.
And Michelle and Venice and I stayed at the house. And we actually each had a little place where we were teleworking, and taking care of mom and dad. It was amazing how, when you look back on it, how smooth it actually went, because we were determined we're going to take care of them. We had their schedule to eat. We had menus posted. I'm a
Okay.
very, very, very stickler for doing things on time and at the right time. Now, let me go back, because if some of my friends are listening, I'm always late, but I have schedules set up. I don't always meet the times, but I set up a lot of schedules and everything. I want to make it clear that I'm not always on time, but the schedules really helped us out, the meal planning. And it was good for my parents too, because they knew what to expect. It was up on the wall. Nurses, when they finally came back in, they would laugh because I have all these schedules all over the place. How were their bowel movements? I mean, I want to know everything.
I know
Did
that's
daddy
right.
have a bowel movement today? What did they eat? Were they happy or sad? So I made all these little different charts. You could just check off, like when you go to the hospital and you see the little smiley faces
Hmm.
from 1 to 10, check off their demeanor during your time with them, because I wanted to know how was their day, so I'll know how to manage their evening.
Okay.
So we just made it work, Taraline, and we had a lot of fun. We used to have quarantine parties, whoever's birthday it was, and we would be in the room. We had balloons, and our theme song was "If It's Your Birthday, Make Some Noise." And my parents used to be just doing like this, and I'm sure normally they would not want to hear that song, but it was just so much fun to get them moving. My dad didn't have a lot of mobility. So we would raise his arm and have him going up and down, and just seeing
Wow.
them smile and be happy, and the cake and the ice cream. We just made it work, doing puzzles, whatever they wanted to do. The game shows were overwhelming because he had to watch Wheel of Fortune every night and different things. So, um, we made the best out of a bad situation, and we tried not to let them watch regular TV, because when they kept saying how seniors were passing away, I didn't want them to have that anxiety that,
Mm.
okay, this is going to happen to me. So we were very strategic in how we did things to make them comfortable and have the best life, even having drive-by parties for them, or having neighbors come up, and I would say my parents are on the porch, come out and wave. And so people would come and just wave and everything. So we made it work and we had a good time.
Although we're not in the quarantine time, I could see what you just shared of how you made it work, helping some other caregivers who've got their loved ones at home, especially, and can't get out. So thank you for sharing that and being transparent about how you, because a lot, that's what you have to do. You figure out how to make it work to the best of your ability, and
Yeah.
you are certainly a creative person too, and having your family and the support, um it- that's really good. I could imagine it helps. I'm i'm sure. How did it help y'all emotionally too?
Oh, it was good, because what happened, we started watching these crazy shows at night because we had to be up during the night. My mom started having these behaviors. And if you're taking care of someone who has dementia, you may see their behaviors start to change. So one of the things that happened with her is she could only have so much to drink every day.
Mhm.
So we had to measure out, and I'm talking about, it was like limited to 8 ounces a day. So she would take her little walker and be holding it up, because we had stuff on the walker so we could hear her when she moved at night.
Mhm.
So we started having all night parties so we could stay awake and watch out for mama going in there to drink stuff. And she started coming out just holding her walker up, which she needed to have on the ground to walk better. But she was trying to get over on us. And so we would be out there, and it was so hypocritical. We used to be like, oh man, here she come, here she come. And we would have candy. I mean, Teroline, we was having the time of our life. Like, we got to be here in the house. Let's watch this show. And we had candy and cookies. And so she would walk out. We was just hiding stuff behind the chair and sitting back, so she wouldn't see us eating it,
Mhm.
and she couldn't have any of it. We didn't need it either, to be honest. But um, that was one of the fun moments that I remember. And um, her disease also made her think that I was my dad's first wife.
Mm.
So she wasn't happy about this first wife living in the house with her and her husband. Now they've been married 73 years, and I'm like, Ma, I'm your daughter. I'm not the first wife, but
You
she
like
could
what
not.
first wife?
Yeah, it was no first wife, but she went through a spell where she didn't know who I was, and so you have to be prepared for that too, because as they start forgetting who you are, it's like it just damages your heart, because it's like,
Mm.
how can you forget me? And I would tell her, I'm like, Ma, I'm Vanessa. How can you forget me? I'm your favorite. And she would laugh, and she was like, no, I know who you are. So me and my mom were always so close. So it hurt me so bad when she went through that spell. And it only lasted like 2 months. But it
Uh-huh.
was a scary time for her
Right.
as well as me. And it was hurtful for both of us. Um, but the behaviors will come with caregiving, because people get frustrated.
Mhm.
People don't know what's happening in their life. The different changes in their medicine. It can really be a hard thing for them. So
Right. Right. I remember one time you talked about because you were staying with them during the quarantine, during the shutdown time, that you kind of alluded to it a few moments ago, how you like set up an office space so that y'all could work, and they thought, because Vanessa's here all day, so you had to kind of help them realize I'm working though.
yeah, that was very hard for us. I was in the bedroom, in the guest bedroom. Michelle was at the dining room table, and Venice was in the kitchen. And when I was over there the other day, I said, how did we do this in this small area? I mean, we all had meetings. Michelle was teaching school, virtually, and it was crazy. So it was nothing for her to interrupt us. Hey, can somebody bring me something? And our families, I mean, our coworkers knew that we were also taking care of our parents. So it wasn't a big issue, but it became an issue for me when they wanted us all to come back to work in July.
Mm.
And I said, I can't do that. And so they gave me one more month. And at August, Thomas and I made the decision that it's more important for me to take care of mom and dad than to go back into the office. So I quit my job, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, because I was able to spend those last 2.5 to 3 years with them. And it's priceless. I will never get those memories.
Right.
I could never get those memories back. So I thank God that happened, because now I didn't have to juggle trying to work and take care of them. It was hard, but it was so peaceful,
Yeah.
and it was the right decision to make.
That's good what you just said. Like, it's hard, but it's peaceful. And making the decisions. Do you have any tips, if you would, that you would offer someone who's a caregiver now, who's faced with making those life changing hard decisions for
Yeah.
themselves or for their loved one.
The one thing I would say definitely is to pray about it.
Hmm.
And I know sometimes people say, "Oh, pray about it." But I'm serious, pray about it. God made a way for us that we were able to pay off all of our debts, and we were debt free except for the mortgages because we were still paying two mortgages. And so I haven't missed a meal. I haven't missed anything. God has been so good, so good to us. But the one recommendation that I would give to them is to believe in yourself. And whatever decision you make is the right decision, because the decision you make today may not be the decision for a year in the future. You know, I made the decision to try to keep my parents at home because I knew that's what my mother wanted. I knew that's what my dad wanted. So I made the decision, even though they wanted them to go into facilities and stuff, I really tried to keep them home the whole time. And we were successful with my dad, but unfortunately, my mom had to go in for rehab, and she never returned home. Um, and then take care of yourself in the process. So if you decide to do that, you still have to take time for yourself. If it's just time for you to um, go out on a date, if it's time for you to take a long shower, read a book, whatever you need to do for yourself, you have to take time for yourself. I would call my cousin if the kids had to do something, and this is after the pandemic lifted a little and we
Hmm.
were going out. My cousin Andrea, thank you, would come over and sit with my parents, and my mother would just talk, and say the same thing over and over again. But people learn to adjust to that. And I had some excellent sister girls who would stop in and help out, and maybe cook for them when I was just too tired to do that. So you need a good support system,
Yes.
you need prayer, and you need to take care of yourself. And
Shout out
remember,
to the sister girls and the support system.
amen, because I got some good sister girls, and I don't want to start calling no names, but y'all know who y'all are. And so the other thing is, just be good to yourself, because it's not them, it's the disease. And I used to tell my girls that all the time when mama would clap back and say things, and sometimes she wasn't always nice, you know. You learn to understand what the behaviors are. And I would call the doctor and ask, I don't know why my mom is doing this. Why doesn't she want to take a bath anymore? And I didn't know that it feels like somebody sticking needles in them sometimes.
Oh,
And so then they're afraid they're going to fall. So all these things are going on in their head. But my thing is, because I've always been like, you got to stay clean, let's stay fresh. But it brought upon this fear. And I'm like, is it that important? Can we just do the wash up? So the hospice nurses would do the wash up instead of trying to do the whole shower routine, because she was afraid she was going to fall, but she couldn't
mhm,
verbalize that as well. So you have to understand that this is a horrible disease, or whatever that I was dealing with, dementia
mhm,
and kidney failure, but it's also whatever you're dealing with that you have to take care of somebody. It's not easy for them either. So just remember that it's the disease, it's not the person.
mhm.
If they're really being mean, it's not them. They wouldn't be acting that way otherwise. So just have a little grace and mercy, because I heard in one caregiving seminar I went to that either you're going to be a caregiver, you're going to need a caregiver, or you're not going to be here. And I was like, wow, that sounds really bad. I don't want to think about life like that. But as we grow older, we will need some more support.
It's very sobering.
Yeah, so I'm like, I have to do the right thing, because you reap what you sow, right? And I don't want anybody to mistreat me. And so I made it my point, and I'm glad my girls were able to see how I treated my parents. And if y'all are listening, y'all know how to take care of me, right? Right. Okay. So, so yeah, it's not the disease. Whatever they have, if it's cancer or some other kind of disease, they didn't choose to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants you to have to change them. I mean, for me and my daughters to have to change my dad, that was so hard initially, because I thought about him and I'm like, wow, I bet he never thought about that. And it had to be hard for him. So we
Right.
just talked him through it. Daddy, we're not paying attention to what you got. We just trying to make sure you stay clean. We got to do this, right? And we made light of it as much as possible so that we could do what we needed to do for them.
That's good.
Um, so yeah, get some good support in there.
When you talked about the self-care, that's something that I can so identify with, because on my caregiving journey too, like self-care, you just I was going through life some in that department willy-nilly, but self-care became more important to me when I was a caregiver for my mother too. And that part, like as I read your bio about you learn to put your oxygen mask on, Vanessa, first. Talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. And like what are some things that you did to start to take better care of you? Because that's one of my big messages to caregivers is as challenging and as little time as you feel you have, you got to make some for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it really became hard for me to see that I wasn't taking care of myself until I started gaining a lot of weight. I was unhealthy. My knee was messed up. I didn't have time for me to go to the doctor, but I made time to take mom and daddy to the doctor, virtual or
Mhm.
otherwise.
Mhm.
And so I remember the last time I took my mother to the doctor, her doctor pulled me into the hallway and she said, "You are killing yourself.
Wow.
You need to take care of yourself." And that's when the light bulb went on. And I said, I'm going to start giving myself the oxygen first. When you go on the airplane and they tell you, give
Mhm.
yourself the oxygen first, because if you try to help the other person before you help yourself, you might go out. And how can you
Mhm.
take care of that person? So if I was to go down, and strangely enough, the Antrim ladies were there. Mama, you need to take care of yourself. Go take 5 minutes. Do this. They thought they were becoming the mom, so to speak. They're my boss now. But it was true. I needed to take 5 minutes because you become irritable. You can become sick. A lot of caregivers die before the person that they're caring for
Yeah.
because they don't take care of
That
themselves.
was the statistic that scared the mess out of
Yes.
me, Vanessa. I was sitting in a workshop and they dropped that and I'm like, oh,
Want to bring you there? It's like,
reality check. Like,
yeah.
and like for me still thinking of my mom, because I was an only child, I was like, well, shoot, if something happens to me, if I have a stroke or a heart attack, then who's gonna take care of her?
Yep.
So it was like we talk about scared straight in the criminal sense, but that kind of stuff,
Yes. They hit me too. They
who's
hit me
there?
hard too.
Yeah,
And I was like, if I go out, who's going to be here to care for them?
yeah,
So I started taking care of myself. And you know what, Tara Lane? I kind of liked it. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can travel. So I love it. I take good care of Vanessa now. And so I I recommend that to you. If it's a long shower, if it's getting away, we used to go out on walks around the neighborhood, and my mom and dad lived in a 55 plus neighborhood, and
mm-hmm.
I loved it because it was like it's no steps, you know. Coming to visit them, I knew that, but when you're living there, it's like, oh, I could do this. So Thomas and I actually bought a home in the development where they lived, and to be closer to them, um, and take care of them. But they never got a chance to see the home, but I love it. So I walk around, you go walk around the community. I do the water aerobics. It's like living on a resort. Every Monday they call and say, "Hello, neighbors. These are the events for the week." So they have line dance, tai
Get out of
chi,
here.
all kinds of stuff for you to enjoy, nutrition classes, hand dance, line dance, all kinds of stuff. So I just look forward to it. I really look forward to taking time for Vanessa. My kids are like, "Where y'all going now?" Because I just feel that you can't not live this life. You only get one time,
Right.
one shot at it, and that's it. And so when the Lord calls me home, I want to be able to say I had a good life. So take care of yourself. It could be something as small as just putting your AirPods on and just listening to music, doing the candles, whatever makes you happy, do that.
Whatever makes you
Yeah.
happy, do that. Thank you for that because so many caregivers are like, I'm strapped for time, Terralina. I don't have the time. So like you just gave some two practical things. The walks. You said the taking a longer shower, a bubble bath. Like y'all hear that? I hope those are things that you can do. Just steal away for a few moments, and it can make a big difference. One in your outlook and in your attitude.
Yeah. And call on those people who say, "Oh, I love your mom so much. I love your dad so much." I used to call people and say, "Look, we just need a break. Our family hasn't been out together for a long time and we just want to go out. Can you come?" And so people would do it. And I was really pleased. And the other thing that we found out that when both of them were in hospice, if you're caring for someone in hospice, you get 1 week a month that they can go in for respite.
Mm,
It's no cost to you. So we didn't want it to be every month, but there were times when I wanted to take the girls to New York just as a thank you for being there for me
hmm.
as I take care of my parents. And so, you know, it's just great to take advantage of some of the opportunities that are out there.
That's really good. How did you hear about? Well, how were you made aware of like the respite of those opportunities? Were those like? Did you have to ask questions in the facility, or was that information made readily available to you?
the social the social workers let us know about different opportunities that were available,
Okay.
and so we resisted at first. We were like, no, they're not going nowhere. And so finally we went and visited the facility, and it wasn't far, maybe 10 minutes from their house.
Okay.
And so we went up there and talked to the people, and the first day that they were there, we stayed like a half a day, just to see. But they loved my parents, and they really took good care of them. And so we kind of felt a little easier. And it had to be like the third time before we felt okay, now we can go out of town. But yeah, it takes some getting used to, but then once you get it, it's like, wow, this is awesome. We get a little break because you need that.
You do.
A lot of people, don't want to take it, and we didn't want to take it at first. But once we did, it was like, this is really needed. Really needed. So I would tell them, y'all are going on a vacation, y'all going to stay away from us for a little while, get a little break. And mom was like, I don't like this place. I don't like their food. So we would just take them the food that they like up there. And the place was fine with it. My mother was
Okay.
very finicky. And so it really worked out well. It worked out well.
Amazing.
The one thing I do want to say,
Let me pause really quick, Vanessa. I see one
okay,
little technical thing. Let me pause real quick.